Welcome back, everyone. Today I want to do a review and give a little bit of love to a series of slot cars that hasn't had much love lately. They had their issues. This is the Auto World Super 3 series, and this one in particular just was released. It's SC399, and these are sort of NASCAR slot cars. They're kind of their own little take, Auto World's little take on historic NASCAR slot car race cars that raced in the 80s and 90s, I would say. Um, well, Auto World's Super 3 series had some problems in the recent past. They had some gear problems, and people tend to shy away from them now because of that. But just in case that someone doesn't know, they've corrected those problems, and I've ran a lot of their cars, their Super Threes, quite a few laps, and they work out really well. And I think that issue is resolved. So it would be nice if people came back to this series and really enjoyed them for what they are. And they're great race cars, and they're very fast. And this latest series is special to me because it features cars that I really always enjoyed in NASCAR that haven't been made in any form in any slot car that I've ever seen. And we'll start with this one over here, which was probably one of my favorite cars of the 80s when Bobby Allison drove it. Now, again, this is unlicensed. This is a knockoff. He drove the Miller American car, and I used to love this car. And I think when he drove it, it was number 12. So the numbers aren't correct. The sponsors aren't correct. Even the makes of the cars in a lot of these cases are not correct, but that's fine. Just having a car that I can call Bobby Allison and the Miller American car, and this one has a special meaning in particular because this is the one in 87 when he had that crash at Talladega. He almost went into the grandstands, and that would have ended NASCAR racing pretty much if that car would have sailed. Thankfully, the catch fence caught it. He was severely injured, pretty much. I think he did return after that for a little bit, maybe, but that pretty much almost ended his life, and his career was never the same. Um, but Yeah, so just having this car is very special to me. I'm just going to call it Bobby Allison because that's who that is in my mind. This one over here, you may remember this one from the early 90s. I believe Darrell Waltrip drove the Western Auto car. And this is a fairly nice representation. It's not spot on, and I think they're not meaning to be spot on with it. But you can kind of see that this is the Western Auto. And so this is my Darrell Waltrip. And a beautiful car in its own right, even if you don't want to say it's Western Auto. Just what it is a nice, beautifully done car. A beautiful slot car. This one over here, as far as I could tell, this looks really like a Wind sponsorship. And this was driven by Lake Speed, who was also actually one of my favorite drivers. And If I had my druthers on which Lake Speed car I would like to see in a slot car, it would definitely be the Nationwide car that he drove for Ramek, Butch Mock, and Bob Rahilly. That car was stunning to me. I made a model of it, and I love that car. If I ever do customs, which that's going to happen someday, that Nationwide car is, I believe it was a Pontiac, will be definitely a car that I have in slot car form, whether somebody produces it or not. But in the meantime, this is my Lake Speed. Now this one's also interesting. Another Bobby Allison when he had the Miller High Life car. And of course, they call it Thriller, but it looks pretty much like Bobby Allison's Miller car. And again, another Bobby Allison car, but that's fine with me because I would say he's one of my top two drivers of all time, along with Neil Bonnet. And yeah, this one was a spectacular car. It looked great on the racetrack. He had a teammate for this team. It was Bobby Hillin Jr. And I believe Mike Alexander drove for him uh, for Allison after he suffered a severe injury at one point. As you could tell, the drivers I really enjoyed watching, Bonnet, Allison, they all seem to have their fair share of severe injuries. But when Allison was injured in this car, I believe Mike Alexander took over for him, and I think he got injured severely as well. And so there's a bad history with this, but still, it's a beautiful car. And so another Allison car in my stable, and that's fine, beautifully done. Even if it's not licensed, I still love it. This one, I feel I should know who this is, but I can't put my finger on it. If somebody knows who it is, reach out in the comments and let me know. I can't really remember. Maybe it's somebody after I was not really heavily involved in getting into NASCAR in the late 90s. And after that, I watched, but kind of was losing interest. So maybe this was a car at that point in time. But I feel I've seen this car and I should know it or what it represents. So reach out if you have any ideas, and I appreciate that. And this one also I can't put my finger on. I think it's supposed to be Denny Hamlin. Not quite sure. The FedEx car doesn't quite seem like it though. Which Hamlin is not my favorite driver. Probably my least favorite driver of all time, I would say. Well, maybe the Bush boys. But speaking of Bush, I'd like to think of this as Cale Yarborough because he drove a car for Junior Johnson around 1980. That was also, it was a beautiful, stunning car, Bush Beer, and they had the mountains. Their logo was Head for the Mountains with Bush Beer, and they had mountains on the side there, and it was just beautiful, just beautiful. And so this is not Hamlin, whether it's intended to be or not. To me, this is Junior Johnson's, Cale Yarborough's Bush Beer car. So there you have it. There's the latest line, SC399 from Auto World, and I'll put it on the track in a second, but I just want to show you a couple of others that Auto World released in a more recent release also, the previous one to this, and they did these two NASCAR versions, again unlicensed, and again I have no idea who these are. Maybe they're just completely fantasy liveries. And but I love them. They're beautiful, very, very well done. And here's one among plenty that they did when they did have the NASCAR license. And this is the Exalter. This is the Dale Earnhardt Jr. car, and kind of a throwback for his paint scheme that he had that was popular. And they did plenty others. And but that's in. No, that is a newer version also after, I believe, when they fixed that gear issue, which doesn't give me any problems. So I think it's the newer Super 3. Make sure when you do get them that you pick up the newer versions, unless you want to pick up some extra chassis from the newer ones and put them on the older NASCAR releases. So let me take one for a spin, and just to do a little review on it. And we'll take this Bobby Allison. I'll try to not let him go into the grandstands. And we'll give him a little ride around the track to show how they go. And now, when I was playing around with them, I did notice that they do have kind of like a screeching sound to them. Not like a squealing, but like a scraping sound, I should say. And I thought maybe it was the newer bodies or something, but it's not. When I ran the bodies without the chassis without the bodies, it still had that. So they're a little loud. Let me take one around so you can see for yourself. try to drive and record. I should mount this camera somewhere, but let's see what we can do here. Okay, again, the catch fence saved the day. Yeah, so you can see and you can hear that it was a little bit on the scrapey side. Don't really know what's going on there. Have to investigate. I did put some oil on it, and it made it a little quieter, but still a little bit. Here, let me take the chassis off here. Hold on 1 second. Sorry to. Okay. Yeah, we're back. Now here's the chassis running by itself without the body. See, it's still got that scrapiness to it. And it's the only thing I don't like. It's not a smooth, quiet ride. Not like, compare it to, here's an AFX car, Race Masters AFX. Well, I guess this has got kind of a whine to it, but you don't hear that scrapiness. But still, the Super 3 cars can hold their own against Tyco 440s and close to those AFX cars, and they're not the super deluxe quality of what you might find in the Bulldogs and things like that, but still they hold their own, and they make for great racers, and you race them in a class amongst themselves, and they're great. They are, I would say, the very fastest that Auto World has in their stable, definitely of T-Jets and Extractions and 4Gears. But if you want a pretty very fast race car that's very magnetic, that really holds well, if you have grandkids that like to race, and this will be great for them. And let me know what you think of them. And thank you for watching, and have a great day.